Hello, I'm Murray Harrington, and today I have two ATrims that Gus Trim sent me. The top one is 16.8.3, and the bottom one is a 16.8.7. First off, I'm going to show some pictures with stats, and then we'll get back onto the review. See you in a moment. Welcome back. Okay, after seeing the stats, these swords are very similar. You know, the overall length and blade length is about an inch, difference. The weight, the .3 weighs 2.7 pounds. The .7 weighs 2.61 pounds. So they're really similar. I can see why Gus is kind of phasing the 3 out over the 4 in the 16.8.4 and the .7. The .4 is really popular in the tournaments, does very well. I can see that. And then you got the .7. Now, even though these swords are real similar, they feel a little bit different. The .3, it's really agile, but it's a little tip heavy. It's, really good in the cuts and stuff like that. Really wants to cut. You can feel it. The sword wants to cut. Still agile, nimble and stuff. .7, it's really agile. Really agile. Really fast sword. Really fast sword. Now, there's a backstory. Since 2012, I've been hosting sword gathering, sword cutting parties. People come over and stuff. And by the time of 2016, Gus started sending swords to my cutting parties. The first batch of swords in 2016 was two 16As. One was a .2 and one was a .3. Really fell in love with the .3. Really did. There was also an Albion. There are 16A, the Gracie. That was there too. So we all got to try him out. I really fell in love with the .3. It was the best 16A there. So when he was phasing this out to the .4, I was going, oh man, because I really like this sword. When this sword left the cutting, someone else bought it at the cutting party, and it was just kind of felt like the sword that kind of got away. We all have a sword that's like, man, I wish I would have got that sword. So when he's phasing it out, I was bummed. But then he was saying, well, you got the .7. And I was like, oh, okay. So he wanted to send me the .7 with his new razor sharp edge that he's doing now, that he likes to use the term tournament sharp. He doesn't like the razor sharp or hair shaving sharp because a lot of people think that the edge is really thin. It's the same edge geometry that he does when he does his older newspaper sharp edge. So when the sword came in, opened it up and everything, tried to shave, I couldn't shave with it. I was telling Gus, I can't shave with it. And he's like, that's funny because I can shave off my hand. I go, I couldn't. And then, long story short, he sent me the wrong .7. He sent me one with the older newspaper edge. So he goes, you know what? I got a .3 that's razor sharp. I'm going to send that one to you. So I go, oh yeah, the .3 because I really love the .3. So after getting a 0.3, it shaved hair, and I was cool. So then I was comparing. It was cool because I get to compare these two, you know, because he's phasing this one out. Then you can either get the 0.4, you can get the 0.7, or whatever. I also handled his 16A.5, but I've never handled the 16A.4. So that I remember. I don't know, so many swords that coming through my cutting parties and sharpening for people and stuff like that. So I don't remember if I even handled a 0.4. I don't think I have. But these swords, you know, they're really good swords. They were fun to play with and fun. The cutting part, I did cutting earlier, and I filmed that. So we're gonna get to that shortly. The targets that I used on my on the cutting video is tatami mats, and I use my pork rib test where I have pork ribs and I put a gambeson over them and then I cut them. Now I've done tests like that before, and I've done tests where I compare different sharpness and what it would do to a gambeson. So I know the dollar newspaper sharp doesn't really quite do well, but the gambeson I was using was made by Lords of Battle, and it's it's a little thicker, and that was having a problem. But through all the tests and everything I've done with that thing's tore up. Can't use it anymore. So I have a Get Dressed for Battle arming jacket, arming coat, and that's a little bit thinner, or it is thinner, and so we'll get to see what newspaper sharp can do to it, because we already know this one's going to cut through it. Razor sharp, they cut through the gambesons really good. So let's go watch the cutting video. The first sword is a 16A.3. Okay, let's have some fun with the 0.3. Next sword is a 16A.7. My next cutting target is going to be my pork rib test, where I tape pork ribs onto the punching bag and I put a gambeson over it. This time I'm using Get Dressed for Battle arming coat. It's a lot easier to cut through than the what I normally use, which is the Lords of Battle gambeson. And then we know that the 0.3 is sharper than the 0.7, so we'll see what they'll do. Let's have some fun. First sword, 16A.3. Now, the 16A.7. Okay, the 0.3, cut through the gambeson, cut through the ribs. To 0.7, cut the leather. I cut the string, so I cut this off. It cut into it. It cut through it. It didn't do any damage to the ribs though. Well, it barely cut through the plastic, maybe half an inch. I'm gonna do one more try with that because maybe it wasn't a good, maybe it was more user error. All right, second attempt with the 0.7. I think I'm gonna hit more, I'm gonna try more like right there. I'm going to do some thrusting with the 0.3. Now with the 0.7. Here's the pork ribs. This is the cut. There's a thrust here. There's a thrust. This was the cut of the 0.7 right here. So just barely, oh. This is what the damage it did right there. Oh, that was a thrust, never mind. This is the cut right here. Thinking to finish these off without the gambeson with the 0.7. Have some fun with that one. Alright, that's the cut I did with the 0.7. You can see cut right, you can see the bone marrow right there, cut right through the ribs, no problem. No problem at all. Hanging meat. Alright, back from the cutting. Hope you guys enjoyed the cutting video as much as I did doing it. That's my favorite part of the whole reviews. Alright, both these swords performed very well on the tatami mats. No problem. They did all the cuts I wanted to do. The 0.7, I said, I'm going to do a double cut. Did a double cut. Perfect. Fast sword. Both of them are quick swords. Both of them quick. Just the 0.3 compared to the 0.7 is just a little bit more tip heavy. Has more of a blade presence. It wants to cut. 0.3 just wants to cut, and it's still nimble and fast. Just not as fast as the 0.7. They're both really good swords. It's just just wants to cut. You still move it quick, still agile. 0.7, same thing. Really quick sword. Really, this is a great cut and thrust sword. Really good sword. Now with the gambeson, or the arming jack that I have, the edge sharpened on this one, it did exactly what a sword that's this level of sharpness does against this. So I brought this in because I was trying to do out there, and I thought I was filming and I wasn't. So here's the arming jack, and this is not a standalone gambeson. This is made to have some kind of arm or chainmail or whatever on it. So here's the first cut with the 0.3. See what it did? It cut through here, cut part of the leather off. See if you can see that. See if it's getting, there we go. It's inside. Now we get to the 0.7. I tried 2 cuts. See if you can see them. Here's the cut. There's also a thrust. So here's a thrust. And let's see if you can see. There's a thrust. But the cut's right here. So just cut a little bit right there. And then into the pork ribs, had the plastic covering, was probably about a 1/2 inch. Probably went that deep into the meat. And it looks like, oh, and it cut the leather cord. The 0.7 cut the leather cord. Pretty clean cuts. Cut. Here it is. All right, it cut into. See if you get this better. Cut that. Cut into the leather. Cut here. Yeah. From my testings before, it looks like this cut was more on the tip, a tip cut. Let's go on the back side. Let's see here. This is the 3. All right. That right there is a thrust. This one's a thrust. That one is the cut. So from my experience from doing all these cuts with different levels of sharpness, this is kind of more, I probably hit it more with the tip. And then the second cut, it looks like something from using the center of percussion more closer to the center of percussion with this cut, with this level of sharpness. See if you get a better, this second one. Second cut goes here, goes to, see if you can see, here to here. Yeah, some people online, you know, they talk about edge geometry is the most important thing. It is important, but also the level of the sharpness that it is too to cut, as you can see on that right there. So I added these swords, and also the Type 16, you know, this is a 34-inch blade and this is 35. Type 16As, you know, their blades were around 32 to 35 inches. So these are more in the longer end of this typology. And the handles are both 8, which Type 16A, they can go from 7 to 9. So these are really good examples of Type 16As. And out of these, I really like this one. This one is just, I really enjoyed cutting with this one, training with this one, doing dry handling and stuff before doing the cuts and stuff, going through all the guards and all this stuff. So out of all the 16As from all the different makers and stuff that I've handled and cut with, I think the 0.7 is my favorite. This would be my number 1 pick. This would be my number 2 pick. Well, thank you for watching my video.